Hey, this video is going to be just kind of a quick demonstration of how to get through lesson 7, which is the mini project Robot Faces in Code.org Unit 3 in Computer Science Discoveries. This is the Games and Animations unit. So one thing you probably want to do is click on Student Resources. Here you will see an activity guide that could be helpful. There's also a resource, problem solving the program. There's also the rubric of how it can be evaluated to know if you're meeting the requirements or not. So I'm going to click on that activity guide. When I click there, it's kind of giving you a sprite scene overview. Using shapes, variables, and random numbers, you're going to create a unique robot face. Be as creative as you can. Think about how you can make your robot unique in design, from the shape of its head to the number of eyes or mouths, or if it has antennas. There's no limit, so let's come up with something original. Before you jump into programming your robot face, you need to plan. So this kind of helps you line it out. So it says write a short description of your robot face, including what sorts of shapes and random features it will include. So I do recommend thinking about this. It kind of gives you a place to plan things out. So maybe this also gives you, if you wanted it printed out, you could request that. I'm not in class today, so for my students, I can't do that. I do apologize. But some people find it helpful, obviously, to kind of use this grid to sketch it out. So what I would do, you could obviously just make a copy of it and you could edit it here and still kind of do a digital sketch. But I do find this helpful, and it kind of shows you some of the different shapes you have the option to do. If I go back and look at the Robot Faces rubric, all right, it's not really like a scoring 1, 2, 3, but I'm looking at the extensive evidence. All right, so it says, so they sequence the program well and all shapes appear on the screen as intended. Okay, so if it works as you intend, that's great. Used at least 4 different shapes. So that's going to be a requirement, 4 different shapes. And place them correctly on the screen. Variable storing that the program creates and correctly uses at least 4 variables. All variables have descriptive names and use random number block to give the program a different look each time it is run. And then they use elements. So basically, you just created a robot face. So basically, what we need is 4 different shapes, 4 different variables. Each variable is using a random number. Okay, so what I am going to do, all right, I'm going to now go in. There's a quick little review. So some of these different practices we did previously, you could go back and look at to see how to draw different shapes. So what I'm going to do is, I've already done this. I'm just going to go ahead and click finish and run through. So I'm first going to do a background. All right, I'm going to do a black background. I am going to think about my shapes for a minute, and I'm going to have, probably not super creative, but I'm going to have a rectangular head. So for that one, I'm going to have a rectangular head, and I'm kind of flying the plane as I'm building it. I'm looking to see if they give me the option. They do for comments, so that's great. So I'm just going to put a comment that's head. I'm going to do another comment for eyes. All right. And for each one of those, I am going to do an ellipse and an ellipse, and I'll come back in and change it. All right. I am going to do a comment. I need to have a nose. And for that one, I'm going to do a regular polygon. Actually, yeah, that'll probably be the easier one. All right. And then I'm going to also comment in parentheses there. Then I'm going to make that a triangle. And then for the mouth, I'm going to add a comment I'm going to also do a regular polygon, but it will be a different shape, so I will still get 4. And I'm going to make the mouth, all right, just for fun, and octagon. Okay, so I've got the head that's a rectangle, eyes that are ellipses or circles, a nose that's going to be a triangle, a mouth. So right away, I've got 4 different shapes, so I met that requirement. Now I want to work on at least 4 variables. So I'm going to create a variable, and for the head, I'm going to call this variable head width. I'm going to call my next variable head height. All right. So that way my head will have kind of a different width and height. All right. I'm going to have a variable called eye size. We've used that one before. And I'm going to have a variable for the nose size. All right, and we'll kind of leave it at that. Just kind of going through basic. So for my head width, I'm going to give it a random number between 50 and 200. I'm going to do the same with the height. So the head is going to be the biggest part. Actually, let me make that a little bit bigger. I'm going to go 100 to 250. Give it a little bit more fluctuation. All right, for the eye size, I'm going to give it a random number. And I'm going to go from 15 to 50. And for the nose size, I'm going to give it from 25 to, let's see what happens if we do about 75. Okay. Now for my head, I'm going to put it, so this is where it's going to get a little tricky. I don't know how big it's going to be, and it's going to move. So because it's a rectangle, it's going to show up right here. So what I'm thinking I might actually do, and this would still count as a different shape, I'm actually going to change that, and I'll explain why. I'm going to go to a regular polygon for this one as well, because the regular polygon uses the center is where it draws. So I'm going to do rectangle and kind of explain that. Okay, so that way I can still base it at 200, 200. It will be centered. And I'm going to give it, all right, width is first and then height. So that's going to be head width, head height. Okay, for eyes, I'm going to change my X and Y in a moment, and I'll explain what I'm going to do there, but I'm just going to give it size, 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 size. And for the nose, regular polygon triangle, I also need to and I just realized, well, I guess I can't do the width and the height, can I? Okay, I just caught my error. I am going to have to go back and do a rectangle and just roll with it. So that it has to be unique, centered. So sorry about that. I'm going to start this at 150, 150, and just hope it doesn't look too crazy. Okay, and then there I will have head width. So the reason I changed that was I just realized with the regular polygons, the parameters are the number of sides and then the size, so I can't have 2 different sizes, which would change my plan to make the head sometimes short and fat and tall and skinny others. So this is going to be 3-sided, and it's going to get the size of nose size, and then the mouth is an octagon. All right. So what I'm gonna do before I get really crazy with the XY coordinates, I'm going to also change some color. So I'm going to, for the head, I'm gonna make it light blue. I'm going to make the eyes red. I'm going to make the nose, oops, I don't want no fill. I want to make the nose green. And the mouth I'm going to make white. Okay. So I've got that first rectangle. For my eyes, I'm going to try my best to put them, you know, kind of thinking about, well, what's the smallest it could be? What's the largest it could be? This could get really crazy. If I leave everything at 200, 200 and I click run right now, okay, that looks a little crazy. And this one I'm going to make like a 20. So I'm just going to reset run. So it would be nice if I had a little bit more time to really play around with this, but we're just kind of getting to the example. So that's going to be 150, 150 always where it starts, and its width is going to be at least 100, and its height is going to be at least 100. What that means is I want to try to put my eyes, I'm going to do about 175, 175. And we'll come over here at about 250, 175. All right, for the, and I just, yeah. And then for the nose, I want it to be kind of in between those. So I'm going to leave its X position at about 200. But I want it to be a little bit further down, so I'm going to put it at about 250. And then for my mouth, I want it centered as well at 200, but I'm going to put it down at 300. And I know you can't see that, sorry. Change that to 300. Now let's reset and run. So now I get a version, okay, I've got my eyes, I've got my nose, I've got my mouth. So you see the robot's head is changing, but each time it's a little bit different. So that's kind of, okay, that time the mouth was kind of off of it. It's not perfect, but you should get the idea. Some things I may want to change. I may want to reverse the fluctuation in size. Maybe I want to make the nose just kind of more standard and small and change the mouth size. So you could obviously see where we're going with this. You could play around with it. Maybe you don't want as much fluctuation with the head, or maybe you want the head to always be constant, and you're going to change the eyes, the nose, and the mouth. And if you do that, you know, maybe you could add another variable for like where the head's located slightly, but it's going to be generally the same size. Or maybe you change the head color with RGB. So a lot of different ways you could do that. But I hope this helps you to get a general idea of what we're looking for.